This is Managing Mayhem.
Brought to you by two lawyers and a layman.
Because good intentions are not a legal defense.
Wait, I'm sorry, they're not? Okay, well, let's get going then.
Hi, and welcome to Managing Mayhem. I'm Jeff, joined by Patty and Jack. What's going on today?
Well, today I want to talk a little bit about people talking on their phone. I have a lot of owners say to me, we have consultants coming in and wanting to give us tips on fiscal management, on talent management, on culture, on personality assessment, and we just want Phil to get off the phone.
Yeah,
So
Phil,
actually,
who
constant.
are you texting? What are you doing?
Well, we had a question from a listener, and it says, Phil says that he needs to be in constant communication with his kids, both high schoolers. Don't know why. That seems a little petty.
I'm not sure they want to be in communication with him constantly.
Boundaries, Phil. Boundaries. Did you ask her to prom?
What'd she say? Hey, I'm outside your locker. Okay, so he said he's in constant communication with kids, high schoolers, during the day, via phone or text. It's becoming a distraction. What can we do is the question.
Yeah, this is a constant question I'm getting now with people saying they are just attached, like it's an appendage, their cell phones.
I feel that I can get there too, where I'm just like, why am I on this so much? Like, What am I even doing?
Right.
No,
and
I
think
mean,
about if you were paying someone their hourly rate.
Well, that's the best job for me, getting paid to just literally organize things on Etsy that I like.
The reality is that employees spend 2 hours a day on their phones for non-work related reasons. And so
during the workday.
During the workday. Right.
Significant.
Yeah, so it's a massive amount of time that people are spending just on their phones.
Right.
Checking things, watching things.
Yeah, and if I'm a business owner, I'm paying them 1/4 of their pay for them to just do personal calls and text. No, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing that study showed that there's a 28% increase in mistakes after employee gets a phone call. So it's not even when they're on it because they're not usually working. It's like they're so distracted from the text call, social media that then they have, almost a 30% chance of making a mistake. So please, doctor, if you're going to do a procedure, don't be on it.
Calling my kids. They're supposed to be in PE. I can't get a hold of them. Can you focus on the procedure? So what do you do? What can you do to address the issue?
Well, every company is different, obviously, but you can go good old-fashioned fire and brimstone and just say no phones, which may be hard because 95% of people have cell phones.
Some of those companies that have a complete ban, there are still some. And some of that is because it's required by law. For example, I've done investigations at prisons where it's a felony to bring a phone in. But some companies who don't want it, they even put cell phone blockers, so it blocks the cell phone signals from entering their premises.
It's like every heist movie,
right?
The Italian Job,
and it makes sense. I mean, if you have important intellectual property, or you're working with like federal contractors with classified or top secret information, you need to be able to block that stuff out. But
some of my medical clients, they have it because did you know that the cell signal can interfere with pacemakers and defibrillators, and we don't want to interfere with that. Right? But don't we all wonder, like on airplanes, does it really interfere? Like if I'm sneaking,
if me being not on airplane mode is going to bring us down, like what? It is weird too. It's like phones aren't just obviously phones. Yeah, they can record things, video or audio or otherwise. So it's just there's more to it.
Right. So I think that you are going to have to look at your business and look at what it is and what the requirements are.
Are there policies that people can adopt to protect themselves against these kinds of problems?
Yeah, I mean, you should adopt a policy no matter what it is.
You need to have something.
You have to have something, even if you're allowing it. So, I'd like to go through some different options because if you're actually having a no cell phone at all, then we need to say that in a policy that, that someone understands that rule. I think that one of the most common rules is a no phone at the workstation. So for those, they either, and again, you have to
So
communicate
where do you
it.
put it? Yeah, what do you do?
Right. I've seen policies that say you have to leave it in the car in the parking lot, and you can go
Okay.
out on breaks and during your lunch. Other people have lockers. A lot of manufacturing have lockers that they have people
Right.
keep them. Some people, they say you have to keep it in your desk drawer, but then it's a little sneaky peek thing.
Yeah,
so
that's so easy to sneak a
Yeah.
peek.
I've had some
Right there.
people say, well, I tried putting them in a basket, but that was a mess because no one knew whose they were and they took them. And also there's
No.
liability risks
Totally.
because you're taking their phones. And then you can also have a mini locker that you purchase for people to put them in. But again, unless they're labeled,
I
that
always
can
thought
be
it would be good.
problematic.
I thought it would be good with like those the things they have at bars to where you can charge your phone and you have the little code that you put in. I was like, maybe they could just put them in a little phone lock box.
I've never
with it.
seen that. Of course, I don't
haven't
hang out
either.
in
I haven't
bars.
either.
I'm not cool.
This is
It's a big
Real.
city thing, guys. Big city
all right.
stuff.
All right. Well, some other considerations you can actually look at the position the person's in.
Yeah.
As far as if you're going to restrict them having phones in the workstation, are they, a front-facing employee, like they're
Right.
working at a restaurant or they're working with clients or guests?
Don't you think it's irritating? You show up somewhere and they're just on their phone at the front desk,
Yes.
and they're ignoring
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
So irritating.
Absolutely. But other situations you're going to look at is the person working with confidential information, HIPAA stuff, privacy information, medical,
Right.
financial documents.
I
that you
agree,
wouldn't want
Jeff.
them to record or take pictures of.
You have to remember, like Jack mentioned earlier, that you're not just allowing a camera in. You're allowing a video camera in. You're allowing a camera. You're allowing a audio
Right.
recorder in.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do need to think about what confidential information you're trying to protect. It's not just about the cell phone calls or text messages. So,
Okay.
and obviously, if it's a safety sensitive job,
Absolutely.
you
Right.
do not want to have a phone at the workstation. Anything in manufacturing, anything where you're driving or operating a vehicle or
Right.
forklift or machinery. You hear those cases where the train conductor, they see that they were texting at the last moment. You know what I mean? That's just automatic liability. So,
Right.
so
right.
think about it.
Okay.
What the position and what they're doing.
So it kind of can get. It sounds like there needs to be some strict expectations a little bit because there are so many ways it can go wrong or affect your workers
I think
negatively.
I think so. A lot of handbooks aren't very strict, but that doesn't mean a manager can't set some expectations. So let's say your handbook is pretty loose, just saying, hey, we'd prefer you keep it to a minimum. If I
Yeah.
were a manager, I'd set some expectations. For example, I'd say we are not allowing them into meetings, trainings, conferences.
Right.
These are things that we need everyone's full focus and just leave them outside. That would be one suggestion
Right.
I would have. Also, when they're interacting with a customer, they need
Yeah,
to put
absolutely.
the phone away. I think those are reasonable restrictions that you put
Yes.
in place.
And nice and concrete too.
One idea that I did see that some companies have used is they actually have a cell phone designated use area. And so instead of just saying, hey, you can't use it in all these other places, they would say, yeah, you can't have it at your workstation. You can't have it wherever you're located. But on your break, you can go to this cell phone use
Like a
designated
smoking
area.
area. Like
right.
a smoking. Yeah.
Right.
It's like a cry room at church.
Right.
Cry room
right.
at church.
I just envision you have a cell phone area that's just got a bunch of people huddled around.
Yeah, just
texting
sort of roped
rapidly,
off.
you know.
Social
What do you think
media
about that?
section.
Yeah.
I think it could work because you're actually also you want them to you give them some area and space to actually relieve that urge to text or whatever they need to do.
Dogs relieve themselves. We relieve our urge.
but also it's like do it on a break.
Also,
check your phone on a break. That's fine.
If people have to go somewhere, you see who's on their phone, and you can
Yep.
see it.
Yep.
You can
Jack,
see
that's
who's
what
on
I
it,
was thinking
who's
of.
there.
It's easier for a manager to enforce it because they're like, well, unless you're in that area, you're violating our policy.
Right.
Also, if you're in that area all day, you're not working.
Right.
And so
So it could be good, but
I
does seem a
actually like
little
it.
tough to do. like
Yeah,
maybe
I
some
don't
people
know if
couldn't
most
do it, but
companies
it does
would
seem like
will
it could
do
work.
it, but it could work for sure.
The other thing
Okay.
I've seen is where you say, hey, we're okay with having minimal use of cell phones at your workstation, but we have areas that are strictly prohibited. Like you said,
Sure.
surgical
Right.
areas.
Yeah.
And I have seen signs there. I mean, let's face it, cell phones are pretty gross with germs.
gross.
And so, you know what I mean? So there's certain areas where you have a sanitary area that you don't want them. So
Right.
I think that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way for there to be some appropriate usage of the phone, or
Yeah, I think as you know, Patty and I have reviewed a lot of these cell phone policies. They're generally pretty vague. They say no excessive use, very open for interpretation. And I would agree that the majority of our clients don't have a lot of restrictions on cell phone use.
Some companies define excessive. They say if you're more than 5 minutes a shift on it, but most people don't measure that. It's really difficult.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to measure it. It's gonna be a judgment
I don't want to
call.
spend my time as a manager. You know, again, I'm already tracking whether they're
Sure.
tardy or I'm
Right.
tracking whether they're. So to me, I think of it more as a productivity thing. If I notice that you're not doing your job, then that's going to be an issue that I'm going to have with you. So
Right.
I'm kind of more, again, you could do whatever you want as a business, but it's really one of those things like if we feel it's a distraction, if we feel like you're not getting your job done,
Right,
if it's
right.
interfering with other people's work because they're hearing you, things like that.
Right. And that's
Right.
why I would define the appropriate usage that your cell phone needs to be on vibrate or in silent mode. If you're going to use it, be brief, speak quietly, take personal calls in a private area on a break or at lunch, and then not to use your cell phone cameras, obviously. But I would set very specific terms of like, hey, this is appropriate usage. So when they're outside those boundaries,
Right.
you can specifically say, hey, you were talking very loudly on your phone in an open area, and that's not
Right.
okay because we allow it to talk on your phone, but it needs to be
Right.
here, in your office,
right.
private location.
Well, it's weird because it's also like stuff that's it seems pretty common courtesy, but I do think that people with their phones just kind of like lose all sense of what is like socially acceptable or social. Like it's just like, I want to talk on the phone. I need to do this. It's very
This is urgent. I need to handle this
Yeah.
call or whatever. It's
without a lot
family
of
member.
without a lot of consideration for where they are, or that that the workplace is a priority for other people in that moment as well.
Yeah, I also think you can lose when you allow people to have reasonable use, you lose control pretty quickly. And I think that it's hard to enforce. I have a lot of companies that have gone to, they started with hey, this is, please, be courteous and etiquette. And now they're like, you can't have it during work. In my opinion, the happy medium is not you can't bring it on the premises, but it has to be in your person put away when you're on the clock. And when you're on a break, a paid break or an unpaid meal period, hey, yeah, go ahead, go to your
Right.
car, go outside, go to the designated area. If there's an emergency, we get it. But turning back to our hypothetical, I just don't agree that he has to be in constant communication with his high school kids. First of all, if there is an emergency, you have a landline at most offices that someone can call.
Right. Right.
You can also schedule your breaks in your meal period around going and Phil talking to his kids,
Yep.
and so to me, I am interested in your thoughts. I think that's an unreasonable request for him to be in constant communication with them while he's supposed to be working.
I do too. I think for everybody, for the kids too. They're like, wait, what? And everyone's like, dude, you're not doing your job. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil, I'm concerned about you damaging your relationship with your high
With your
school
children.
your
Yeah.
children.
We're doing you a favor. Put it in
This
your
is going to
drawer.
help you
Back
in the
off.
long run, Phil. Aside from the fact that you've done no work for the last 4 hours, but
Yeah.
no, I would agree with that. I think Phil's request is excessive. I don't think that it would fit any of the parameters. I mean, then that's not a reasonable demand as far as needing to be in close contact with
And I have a lot of
connected to Phil.
clients that let their employees after 3:00 step out, take a quick break to talk to their kids when they're coming home from school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
but the kids are also doing things during the day, I hope, and so they're
at school.
not supposed to be.
He's
they're
supposed to be in English class, Phil.
exactly.
Yeah.
Learning about the Great Gatsby. And you're interrupting
still,
him.
it's still valuable.
It's like I never quite understood Moby Dick, the deeper meaning. I just thought it was about a whale. So
It's really about it's metaphor for fracking.
it's a metaphor for cell phones at work and how
Yeah.
you should allow it. So
Amazing.
Now, the other thing is that I've seen some employers say that, okay, Phil was on his phone. We are changing our policy and no one can bring phones to work. And I just think that is not good.
Yeah.
To me, first of all, I would frame it as a manager when I'm talking to my staff is bringing your cell phone to work, if you allow it, is a privilege. It's not an entitlement. And so
Right.
if you take advantage of us, you lose our trust, then that person is going to lose that privilege, not
Right.
everyone. We're not going to punish the
Yeah.
whole staff. I think that is more
Makes more
even-handed.
sense.
And the other thing is, if you're going to punish that person, you do not seize their phone and take
mine
it into your
now.
evidence room.
Good.
Their iPhone, whatever. I don't know what number. I'm always
I'm
5
glad
behind.
Yeah, me too.
We think about why people are on their phones. Now, Phil's saying it's to stay in touch with his kids, which to me is highly suspicious with his high schoolers all day long.
Doesn't make sense.
But the majority of people, they say it's about their kids, but a lot of them are looking at social media,
Yeah,
checking
they're
out sports
texting,
scores,
they're-
texting, things like that. And so, we can always make accommodations for someone to step out for a 2-minute call. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about
Right.
someone when Phil says, I have to be all day long in constant communication.
Right. The last thing I will say is that you need to lead by example, and you need to kind of look at yourself. Are you on your phone, even if it's a work phone or a company issued phone? But
Think of how it
there's
looks.
How exactly? How does it look if you're always on the phone, even if you're texting emails or you're talking to clients, but you are setting an example of how and when to use that phone.
And can you also follow your own guidelines? Step aside, go to a certain, you know what I mean, like speak at a
Right.
certain volume and all of that. All that
Yeah, I was-
razzle dazzle.
When we talk about lead by example, there was one company, they were a digital detox resort, and they had to discipline their employees for violating their cell phone policy. I think I'm just going to
People
leave
are
it there.
trying to get clean here.
For leading by example here.
No phone in the bed for me either. No phone near my bed. No phone at night. It's a phone free zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We await your digital detox podcast, Jack.
It is going to be
short.
short-lived, but also I need one. I need to digitally detox, and I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is a great time for managers to think what is working and what is not working in our
Right.
department. We may have a lax or no even policy
Yep.
in place, but that doesn't mean as a manager you can't set departmental or team,
Yep.
expectations and rules. And so think about it. What is working and not working?
Get some insight from your team on that as well. I mean, ask them what bothers them, because I guarantee you most of them are going to express similar concerns and want to help you build those rules for your team or your department.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you joining us. And remember that you can watch us also on YouTube, and we welcome you to subscribe and follow and shoot us any emails. Appreciate the person who sent the Phil is on his phone question. So
Right.
Thank you, Phil.
And we
Okay.
hope you have a mayhem-free
Mayhem-free
week.
week.
okay. Talk to you guys
All
later.
right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Airplane mode on. Managing Mayhem is presented by Management Northwest and Management Southwest and cannot be copied or rebroadcast without prior written consent. By listening to this podcast, you understand that we, or at least two of us, are lawyers, but we are not your lawyers. Therefore, nothing we say on the podcast should be taken as legal advice or considered to create an attorney-client relationship. It is solely meant for your educational and informational purposes. The podcast should not be used as a substitute for legal advice from an attorney licensed in your state. Please be aware that listening to lawyers can cause side effects such as migraine, self-doubt, and also may cure insomnia. But you know what? Trust your own judgment or you're not your mom.